I'm calling because, or I plugged in my headset because you said, is there anyone out there who was alive during the Kennedy assassination? And since I'm an old geezer, I was alive. The only thing is I was 5 years old. So, I
Okay.
remember where I was, but
Wow.
you don't, when you're 5 years old, you don't have the apprehension of geopolitical stuff
Of
like
Right.
you do
course.
when
Absolutely.
But as a
you're
5-year-old, you were then coming of age in the aftermath of that. And like
Yes,
you inherited
yes,
that world. So
right,
tell us like
right.
what you remember at all when you were five and then kind of how that was growing up and learning about it.
The big thing was communism.
Right.
Communism was the big threat, and it
Right.
was in everybody's mind. And now you wouldn't recognize the United States, or I'm calling from Canada. I'm a Canadian. I'm sorry, I'm Canadian, but
It's
I'm
okay.
not sorry, but that's how my fault that these
I was
scumbags,
like, you don't have to apologize for being Canadian, man. It's okay, dude.
Well, because before that other guy was saying, the French language, I'm very
Oh,
offended by that one,
no, man,
that
you're
French,
good.
you English pig. No,
Yeah,
well,
it's
because I
okay.
live beside Quebec, so it's easy to,
We have like a two
Quebecois.
Canadian caller limit on the show, so we're glad you got in tonight.
Yeah, we've never reached this many Canadians in one call before. So
Wow, that's great. That's great. No, I can't believe you let me in.
Oh, we're
That's pretty
glad.
good.
No, this is
Wow.
awesome. I'm glad we
thanks
took
for
another
being here, man.
caller.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, communism was the big thing for sure. You
Oh
had
yeah,
you had
yeah,
the Red
yeah. And I
Scare.
remember I'm from Toronto, and I was a little kid. My parents sent me to Buffalo to a camp just outside Buffalo called Camp Derby.
Hmm.
And so I was with all these American kids, and I felt like I was just one of you guys. I was, I was like 10 or something, or 9, and I was just completely immersed in Buffalo and, Camp Derby. And it didn't occur to me even that I was Canadian. Wasn't a thing. But I got into some arguments with some other American kids, and one guy was older than me, and we turned out to be really good friends.
Hmm.
And because I was for Nixon, because my parents were for Nixon,
Right.
and so during the summer of 1968, the campaign was on, and Nixon was trying to become president. And because my parents were, Nixon people, and I was obviously a Nixon person because so these other guys, no, no, Nixon's no good because he's going to let the communists win in Vietnam. We have to vote for a Democrat because, Johnson is going to fight communism and Nixon wants to end the war. And so they were upset with me for being on Nixon's side because Nixon's going to end the war and then the commies are going to take over the world.
Right.
And I know we're all 10 years old, but we were a reflection of what our parents are saying at home.
Of
I
course.
mean, I know I was, and so
Yeah.
probably they were too. And they weren't dumb. I mean, these are two brothers, an older and a younger brother who I became really good friends with. I mean, not we don't see each other now, but anyway. So yeah, so communism was the big thing, and if you go by the media, it's completely gone. The media just they don't show that at all. They just they censor that completely out of the equation.
Right.
And the other thing is a lot of people were not big fans of Kennedy, and
Oh yeah.
the biggest fans of John F. Kennedy was the media. The media loved John F. Kennedy because he was good looking, but a lot of Americans and Canadians didn't like Kennedy at
No,
all.
they were obsessed with
My,
the Kennedy family. A lot of people were,
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he fooled around with women in the White House behind the back of one of the most beautiful women on the planet,
hmm
right, that he was
Yep.
married to,
Yep.
which a lot of people felt really disgusted by. Marilyn Monroe,
Yeah, he pulls
all
America's
these,
sweetheart on top of his wife.
Yep.
It's like what?
yeah. And the Bay of Pigs, and the Bay of Pigs is a huge, huge disaster, and that and what nobody knows today, what young people don't. I'm 67, okay, but what young people don't realize today is the Bay of Pigs is the reason for two big things that happened simultaneously. We only hear about the Cuban Missile Crisis, but we don't hear about the Berlin Wall. They were both done simultaneously by Khrushchev because he saw Kennedy screw up in the Bay of Pigs. He didn't have the backbone to take down the communists in Cuba for some reason. I
Right.
don't know why, but he made the decision not to use. There was an aircraft carrier that had, I think, 16 A4s on it. about 200 miles south of Cuba, and the Navy thought we were going to get involved. And he deliberately called them and said, "No, stand down. We don't want to do this." He only allowed 8 World War II bombers to go and attack Castro's Air Force, which wasn't enough. And Castro had jets, so they just shot down those guys. Americans were shot down because they wanted to do something. The Navy was told to stand down, and then the whole thing was 1,500 Cuban expatriates were basically killed by Castro.
Yeah, it's so crazy. That's such a
And that
crazy time.
and the media doesn't talk about it. The media
No.
they're always talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis in a vacuum, but the Bay of Pigs was the whole reason for it, because Khrushchev saw this guy's got no backbone. He's giving us the green light, so we're going to do 2 things simultaneously: put nuclear missiles in Cuba and build the Berlin Wall, so nobody can escape from West Berlin. And West Berlin is in the center of a communist country then, East Germany. So the geographic location of West Berlin is also something the media doesn't want us to see, so they never show you maps.
It's too complex. They don't want you to
No,
understand
it's not complex. They
complexity.
don't want people to understand. West Berlin was a free zone in the middle of a communist donut.
Right.
And they don't want people to see that. So they deliberately they obfuscate that. And that's a key thing to remember. So of course a lot of people were grieving when Kennedy was shot, because he's a good-looking guy. He was cut down in his youth, sort of. I mean, he wasn't that old.
Yeah.
It was a terrible thing, of course.
Yep.
We were all stunned by it.
When
But it wasn't like today, where there was, because Charlie Kirk's assassination, a lot of people are saying this could lead to a civil war. There was no possibility of a civil war in the 60s. There was, if anything, there was like, let's go kill the Russians. Some
Yeah.
people are saying that report on the assassination made it, look like Oswald did the shooting because they didn't want a war with the Soviet Union. I don't know. I mean, I'm just telling you what we heard. But anyway.
So you were like 5 years older, 4 years older, maybe you were 9 when the Manson murders happened?
I was born in 58, so the Manson
you
murders,
were
when
9.
did they happen? 67?
No, I mean,
Yeah,
I think 68 or 69. I could be wrong. So you were a little older for that. Like, do you have memory of how that was and how that affected your community?
Yeah, I mean, I was horrified by it, and generally speaking, my brother and I, who were growing up here in Toronto, we looked at, like, I'm what you call the second wave baby boomers. The first wave baby boomers are the what's his name? The Rolling Stones. They're the second wave. They're the first wave baby boomers.
Like Mick Jagger?
Mick Jagger, exactly.
Yeah.
So Mick Jagger was born in 1945. So all the baby boomers were all the babies that were born when the soldiers came back, and and were glad that the war was over. So there was like a huge explosion of kids all over the place.
Yeah.
I was born in 58, so I'm a late, like the second wave. It's called the second wave baby boomers. And we were looking at the first wave baby boomers. I'm saying this in retrospect. I didn't realize it at the time, but we were looking at the 20-somethings, and they were all a bunch of radical, long-haired hippie freaks doing drugs, throwing rocks at police, throwing Molotov cocktails at police. It was just mayhem. And as a 10-year-old, you're looking at this on TV, and you're going, Jesus, I hope I don't do this when I'm 20. I hope I don't want to grow up like these guys. It was really radical, totally beyond control, but it wasn't civil war. It was like the older people, or the normal people, are saying, what is wrong with these hippies? What is wrong with these weirdos?
Yep.
And if you watch newsreels from Woodstock, you get a good whiff of what that was like. And it was ubiquitous, right?
Yep.
But civil war didn't come up. The big thing was, what are we going to do about communism?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you so much for calling in and sharing that. It's amazing that we had someone out there listening and able to give us some context to that. And call back at some other time. Love to hear from you again. Appreciate it.
okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Have
Have
a
a
good
good
night.
night.